Life can get busy. And as I've grown into my 20s and taken on more responsibilities, along with most of the people who are close to me, most of my friends, those spontaneous adventures that seemed to happen sometimes what seemed like once a week or once every other week seem to be a lot more rare. You tend to have a more busy schedule, and the room for that last second trip up north for a weekend of camping seems to sort of disappear. So one principle that I have implemented into my life, one rule, is that at least once every other month, I have some form of an adventure planned. Now, it doesn't have to be a full weekend. It can even take place over a full day or even just an afternoon. But nevertheless, there's going to be something exciting, something fulfilling, something rather new that's going to happen at least once every other month. And that is penned in my schedule at the beginning of the year. So I'm kind of making this video in the spirit of the new year. You know, we're only in the second week of the year. It's not too late to do this. If you haven't already watched my video on the Misogi, go check that out. That's kind of the idea of having one big year-defining thing that is very powerful and very transformative. But that's not what we're talking about in this video. We're talking about at least 6 adventures that are planned throughout the year. A lot of people talk about how they don't have the time for the camping trip or the hike at that destination that's only a few hours away from their hometown. An example for me is I live in Ontario and I've never been to Tobermory. So this year, that's one of my adventures. We're going to go to Tobermory for a weekend. Another one of them is whitewater rafting. Another one of them is a hunting trip. Now, clearly the common theme there for me is that they're all grounded in nature. But if you're not much of an outdoors person, then it could be something very different for you. Maybe a cooking class is one of your adventures. There's no hard and fast rule of what this has to look like. But the idea is that it's something that you wouldn't normally do per se, or simply something that you find fun, exciting, and fulfilling. Now, as I've mentioned, it's a very good idea to schedule these things in advance so that you don't let life get in the way. You have to prioritize your fun, your fulfillment, your excursions. If you want more adventure and excitement in your life, well, you have to make the space for it. There's plenty of space for your work already, I'm sure, for your time on the clock, and other things that are going to inevitably make sure they take up space. You know you're going to do your taxes because, well, you don't really have a choice. It's a priority. You're going to make the time for it. Adventure is something that a lot of people really value, but they lose it in their life because it's so easy to just simply not make the time for it. It's not something that has to get done. But if you do really value adventure and excitement, then it is something that you ought to value and prioritize and schedule in so that you know it's going to happen and that you have the time for it before your calendar fills up and life gets too busy. Another thing I want to talk about before I end this video is depending on what you're scheduling in, it's going to get you in a state of preparedness for those things. So one of my adventures this year is going to be a jiu-jitsu competition in the summer. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but I don't normally compete, and I want to put my skills to the test in a competition this summer, so I signed up for a tournament. Now that's going to make me take my training a lot more seriously. I've already noticed the effect. I only signed up for it like 2 weeks ago, but I've already been approaching my training sessions with a lot more intention of what I'm working on. I'm taking my recovery more seriously because I want to make sure I don't get injured or get sick so that I lose any mat time. So my diet and my sleep are more on point. Another example is that I'm doing a hunting trip in the fall. So I know that I'm going to have to be getting to the range quite a bit before then to work on my accuracy. Now, those two things specifically are adding more of a sense of excitement into my life because they have more implications for what I'm spending my time doing outside of just that one day in and of itself, or in the case of my hunting trip, those few days. Now, if I didn't schedule in that tournament and I just decided the week before, oh, I'm going to compete, I wouldn't be nearly as prepared. I probably wouldn't be improving as much as I'm improving due to the fact that I'm being a lot more intentional in my training sessions. If I didn't plan the hunting trip and I just said the week before, oh, I have next Friday off, hey, let's go hunting, well, I probably won't be working on my accuracy as much if that's the case. And I might go home empty-handed versus, fingers crossed, going home with a harvest instead. Now, another scenario is that you want to compete in jiu-jitsu, but you don't feel prepared because you haven't been taking your training sessions seriously. You want to go out for that hunt, but you don't feel prepared because your accuracy is a little rusty. You haven't been to the range. Now, these are very unique situations to me and my planned adventures, but you can see where some of these things might arise where you don't necessarily feel so prepared to actually make it happen. That's another reason why penning them into the schedule ahead of time is a great idea, because it's going to get you in a state of preparedness if preparedness is required for whatever adventure you're going on. Maybe you're taking 3 weeks off and doing a hike on the Pacific Crest Trail. Well, you're going to need a lot of lightweight equipment. You're going to need to know where your stops are. You're going to need to know where you're starting and finishing. You might need to mail a pair of shoes to yourself at a certain destination because your shoes are going to get chewed up. That's another good example of why you need some preparedness. And of course, that time that you're going to take off to do that isn't just going to poof in to your schedule out of midair. You have to intentionally block off that time so that life doesn't get in the way, as I've already mentioned. So in a way, this is kind of an obvious thing. Like, hey, if you want to do stuff in your life, you have to schedule it. You have to prioritize it. But adventure is one of those things that a lot of people do really value. I'm sure if you're watching this, if you clicked on a video titled How to Have More Adventure in Your Life, you probably do value adventure. It's as easy as prioritizing it and getting it into the schedule before your schedule gets busy. And I know I've said some of these things are like weekends long, or one of those examples I just gave was, you're going to take 3 weeks and do that hiking trail. It doesn't have to be that grand. Like I said, minimum once every other month. That way, at the end of the year, you went on 6 mini adventures at minimum. It could even be 1 day long. So that's only 6 days out of your year. Maybe it's on a weekend, so you weren't working anyway, but you make sure you're not busy that Saturday or you're not busy that Sunday. It doesn't have to be expensive. Camping trips are relatively inexpensive. That's an example if you like to camp. But hey, it can also be quite expensive if you so desire. Like I said, guys, there's no hard and fast rule to what it has to be. Just make sure it's something that's fulfilling for you, something that feels exciting, something that you can look forward to. Having 6 of these, 1 every other month at minimum, is going to be a way to instantly make your life feel more exciting. I know I'm already looking forward to a lot of the things on my schedule this coming year, and I hope you take this principle and you start brainstorming and penning in some adventures into your schedule, and you start looking forward to those adventures. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Give the video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.